Hey, I'm Brittany Kelly. I'm a mom of 4 and 3 out of my 4 children I induced with the Midwive's Brew. In fact, I'm the one who actually started the trend on YouTube 5.5 years ago with this specific Midwive's Brew recipe. It is different from the actual old school one. It's different, and so everyone is using my recipe that I put up here so long ago, and I've gotten questions for so many years about the Midwive's Brew. So maybe you're here today because you're interested in it, or you heard about it, or maybe you're here for a friend, but I'm going to go over 21 questions, the most asked questions that I have gotten over 5 years and 3 births with the Midwive's Brew. So maybe you'll be able to find your answer that you're looking for in today's video. So I wrote the questions down on my iPhone. Let's just get right into it, because if you are thinking about inducing, or you're on the brink of a medical induction and you want to do something yourself at home, I know this can be like a really stressful time. You don't know what to do. So I'm going to answer these questions. I just want to give a disclaimer. I'm not a medical professional. I am not in any way, shape, or form the final say-so in your decision on whether or not you take the Midwive's Brew. I am just telling you my personal experience. I'm answering these questions because I have gotten them from many moms, and I've seen so many moms have great success with this, and it kind of be their go-to method to help them escape a medical induction for whatever reason that they have one. So it has been helpful for me avoiding medical inductions as well. My providers always knew I was taking it when I took it. So with that said, let's answer these questions. How many centimeters dilated with you? Can I take it if I'm not dilated? So for the first time that I took it, I was about 2 centimeters dilated. The second time, I think I was like a centimeter, 1.5 centimeters maybe. And this final time that I took it 6 months ago with my daughter, I was barely a centimeter. That's what my OB said, that I was barely a centimeter. So yes, if you are barely dilated, not dilated, it can be taken. As you can see in my case, I wasn't dilated a lot. So definitely can be taken even though you're not really phased or dilated. It still worked for me. This last time I was barely dilated. Barely. And it still worked. It worked very fast. Is the Midwive's Brew safe? For me, it's been safe. It never caused any crazy like reactions. It didn't even upset my stomach. I just literally went into the smoothest, quickest labor. None of my babies had any issues. Their heart rates were fine. They did not pass meconium in the wound, nothing like that. It was completely safe for me in all 3 of my experiences. Honestly, if I felt it was unsafe or it did something crazy the first time, I would definitely wouldn't have taken the second, you know, or the third. So for me, it was safe. Nothing. I actually had an easier time with the Midwive's Brew than I did being medically induced with Pitocin, to keep it honest. I almost had a C-section by being induced with Pitocin versus having very quick births. Even the last 2 were all natural with no medical intervention, no epidural. So for me, it was safe. How long did it take to work? Okay, so for all 3 of my births, honestly, I took it at night and I had the baby in the morning. So I would take the brew like at least 2 hours after dinner. So it would be super late sometimes. I think the last time I was done at 10:38 to be exact. And my baby girl was born in the car. In the car at 7:45 a.m. So I would say give it a full 24 hours to see if it works. But for me, it was very fast. It was less than 12 hours. And the actual active labor parts for me were super quick with the Midwive's Brew. Like I saw my contractions start, like my stomach get tight and then release. But the part where I was actually in active labor was pretty quick. In fact, my last 2 births were so quick that I now would be if I had a 5th child, which I'm not, but if I did, I would just stay home because it just happened so quickly. I arrived at the hospital with my 3rd son after taking the Midwive's Brew that night at like 11 o'clock. I arrived at the hospital at 7:15, and I had him at 7:29 on my chest. So I had less than 15 minutes from getting to the hospital to the baby being on my chest. So it went really quickly. Of course, this last time I got in the car, I was 6 minutes away from the hospital and I birthed the baby in the car. It was actually amazing, and yeah, if you haven't seen that video of mine, definitely take a look. So less than 12 hours, give it a full 24 hours before you decide whether or not it's actually worked. What are the ingredients? Okay guys, so the ingredients are castor oil, lemon verbena tea, almond butter, and apricot juice. There are 4 ingredients. I have a video up, my very first video about the Midwive's Brew that is so old, but you will see me pregnant. It was from the first time that I ever used the brew, and I made the video for other women in case it worked for me, because I had done some research to find the old Midwive's Brew recipe, but that recipe had essential oil in it, and I actually didn't want to take an essential oil, so I tried to figure out how I could kind of revamp for a new recipe, and I came up with using a tea. And so I figured out, you know, how many tea bags I would use. I used 4 tea bags, and then I just made a guesstimate of how many milliliters I should use, and that has been, you know, what everybody is now using. So I did 250 milliliters of lemon verbena tea as my guess on how much lemon verbena tea I would need for the actual recipe to work, and that worked wonderfully. So I uploaded it to YouTube and shared it with many moms, and many moms have loved it. I'm happy. Can I substitute an ingredient? Yeah, kind of. So I'll say this. I personally would not substitute certain ingredients like lemon verbena tea and castor oil. To me, those are the 2 very active ingredients. Lemon verbena is an herb. Herbs are part of plant medicine. It does make a difference. A lot of women I've noticed did use a tea that has lemon verbena in it, but to me, I think it's important to use the fully concentrated part, because I have seen some women who use the other tea and it didn't work, and then when they actually used the lemon verbena tea, it worked with the lemon verbena tea paired with the castor oil. So those 2 things for me are really important. I have used castor oil alone. That's why I said 3 out of my 4 births, because with the first one, I used castor oil alone, not the Midwive's Brew recipe, because I hadn't come up with that part yet, but castor oil alone actually did not work for me. It didn't. So having the lemon verbena tea makes a really big difference. You probably could substitute the almond butter for another butter or something else of that consistency, because that ingredient actually helps to kind of coat the stomach. So I honestly would use the recipe as is unless I had some type of allergy to some of the other ingredients. Otherwise, I would stick with that recipe. That's what worked for me 3 times, so that's all that I know. How did you come up with the recipe? Okay, so I think I kind of said it a little bit already, but I saw the old Midwive's Brew recipe because I was looking for a way to induce myself, because my practice wanted me to get induced soon. I was past my due date and all these other things, so I didn't want to have a medical induction again, because my medical induction almost led to me having a C-section, and it was extremely long. The contractions were so much more painful to me, so I didn't want to do that again. So I was looking for a way out, and I thought, hey, you know what? People back in the day had to do something. Like, what did midwives do back in the day? So I looked it up. I found the Midwive's Brew recipe, and it had an essential oil in it. And I thought, I don't want to ingest essential oil. It just sounded like it was so strong and so concentrated, and I didn't want to literally throw myself into labor. I wanted to gently push myself into labor, right? So I thought, you know what? I bet if I use a tea, an herb, that actually will give me enough of a push without being as strong as an essential oil. So I gathered up the ingredients and I went all around town trying to find lemon verbena tea, and I found it and made that brew that night and had the baby in the morning. So I literally just guessed the amount for the tea by looking at it, by making sure it looked super concentrated. I wanted to make sure that there was enough to actually have an effect for my body to recognize it. So that's what I did, and that's how I came up with it. Did the baby pass meconium during labor? So no, none of my babies passed meconium during labor. They didn't pass right after labor. It just took a little bit of time, right? For them to kind of breastfeed a little bit, and then they passed their first poop. Now, I understand why people ask that. Castor oil is a known laxative. It is assumed that when you ingest it, that it will cause the baby to have a laxative effect as well as the mom. But remember, the placenta is a filtering organ between you and the baby. So not everything goes through your stomach, goes through the placenta to the baby intact as is, okay? And as far as the Midwive's brew, it never made me have a laxative effect. Now, when I took the castor oil by itself, my first baby, yes, it did have a laxative effect and I did not go into labor. So that was a complete waste of everything. However, every time I took the Midwive's brew, I did not have a laxative effect. I didn't actually go during labor either, and I think 70% of women do, and I never ever did. So it didn't have that effect on me, it didn't have that effect on my baby, and we had a safe, easy labor all 3 times. Did the brew make you go to the bathroom? No, it didn't. Yeah, I didn't even do it when I was pushing. I didn't go to the bathroom. I know this is TMI. This is a birthing video though, so be prepared. No, it didn't do that for me, and I'm so happy that it did not, because labor is already pretty uncomfortable, so I don't need anything added on. Do I need to drink it on an empty stomach, and can I eat afterwards? All right, you guys, ladies. First part of the question. Take it on an empty stomach. Eat your dinner. This is my preference on how to take it. Eat your dinner, wait 2 hours, and then take the brew. That way you're doing it at night. You can kind of rest. Labor can be exhausting. So I think it's best to take it at night after dinner, 2 hours after dinner, so your stomach is pretty empty, so it can go ahead and process right on through. Right? And another reason, when your contractions start going, your stomach is squeezing, all right? And as you get closer and closer to pushing out that baby, especially if you have an all-natural birth, but even if you don't, even if you have an epidural, this happened to me as well when I had an epidural, you can vomit. Okay, because everything in your body in your midsection is contracting together. And so as it's pushing stuff out, it can push stuff out of your mouth. Why do I think this is so funny? It's not, it's serious. I had a pleasant experience with my last birth though, even though it was in the car. So I'm getting happy actually thinking about birthing my baby. But yes, it can make you sick. You can vomit. So that's the reason why you kind of want to have it on an empty stomach. And so for the second part of that question, no, don't eat anything after. If you want to, if you really, really want to, okay, it's okay. Just know that you could be running the risk of causing yourself to vomit that up when you are pushing later, or when your contractions get really, really close together. So maybe you want to stick to something more of a drink, something liquid. We're getting prepared for birthing a baby. So yeah, take it on an empty stomach. If you don't take it on an empty stomach, it can still work, but just think about the entire birthing experience and what you want that to be like. Next question. This has to do with throwing up. It says, okay, what if I throw up after drinking it? Will it still work? No. No, it's not. Because it is now out of your body and on the floor, in the toilet, in the trash can. It's probably not going to work. I mean, you have to throw up a very, very small amount, right, for it to continue to work. It probably is not going to work. So you might want to try to take it again at another time, figure out what about it made you throw up. It is important to drink it fairly quickly. Within 20 minutes of making it, go ahead and drink it all up. I don't like the flavor. If you've seen any of my videos, you see my face. I don't like the way it tastes, but I know what I needed to do, so I'll go ahead and drink it. So if you do throw it up, you probably will need to take it again. Oh, if it doesn't work the first time, can I take it again? Yes, you actually can. I know of plenty of women who have told me that they have taken it not once, not twice, but 3 times. And it was on the 3rd time that it worked, or sometimes on the 2nd time it worked. So the best bet is to wait and see if it works first before you add on to your labor. That's what happened to me this last time. I took it at, like I said before, I took it at 10:38, but I went to sleep and I woke up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I thought I was fine. Spoiler, I had the baby at 7:45 a.m. But when I woke up, I thought I was fine. I did feel some contractions, but I didn't feel like I was 45 minutes away from the baby being on my chest. So I was tempted to think, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to take this again. So I remember I took like a small sip of raspberry leaf tea, because raspberry leaf tea does help get those contractions really strong. So I took a sip to see if that would help like push things a little bit with my contractions being stronger, make them stronger. But I really didn't need to do that, because all of a sudden they really did start coming back to back. But I was so focused on these pain management techniques and being present that I didn't feel like I was having an immense amount of pain, but I did notice that my contractions were coming really quickly. So thank God for my doula, for my OBGYN, who were just like, oh, you need to get to the hospital. So I personally would wait 24 hours before taking it again, just giving the body a full chance to kick itself into labor. Okay, why can't I take the castor oil alone since it's the only active ingredient? I actually disagree with that opinion. So I took castor oil alone and it did not work for me. The only thing that worked for me was the Midwive's Brew. In fact, I had to get the absolute maximum amount of Pitocin for even Pitocin to work for me for my first labor. So I strongly believe that some women are able to take the castor oil alone and go into labor, and that I'm not one of them, and that there are other women like myself who can't just take castor oil alone. We need that lemon verbena tea to pair with it to push the labor along. Now, there are some women who have substituted the lemon verbena tea in my recipe for a tea that has lemon verbena in it, or for a totally different tea at all. I think those women actually are able to take castor oil completely by itself, and it probably worked for them. But if you are like me and it might not work for you, and you want something to ensure that you get that boost into labor, I would take the Midwive's Brew in the entire recipe that I have taken for the last 3 babies. Do the contractions hurt more? No, it doesn't, especially if you're going to compare it to a medical induction. Now, I have never ever gone into labor without some type of induction, right? The first time I tried to take castor oil alone, it didn't work, so I had to have a medical induction with Pitocin, and those contractions to me were the absolute most painful. Then for my daughter, my second child, I used the Midwive's Brew. Those contractions were coming back to back to back. Sometimes that happens with your second child. I've heard from other moms. So I ended up getting an epidural with that one as well. But yeah, the contractions did not hurt worse than with the medical induction. However, with my third and fourth baby that I used the Midwive's Brew to induce, my contractions were not that bad. In fact, I remember I was laughing, getting ready to go to the car so that I could go birth my third child, not knowing I was 8 centimeters. But again, it depends on your techniques for your pain management as well. That's going to make a huge difference in how you're able to take on the contractions and your perception of the pain for the contractions. Definitely, after you watch this video, take time to watch my video about pain management techniques. And I have another video coming soon on how to push out a baby to really help you navigate that. But no, it doesn't make the contractions hurt worse. In fact, last time when I pushed out the baby in the car, it didn't hurt at all. Like, I felt like I didn't even push her out. I felt like my body just like released her. It was amazing. When is the earliest I can take this? Okay, so this is a really, really difficult question, but I'm going to give you obviously my personal opinion as I have for all of the other questions. I do not believe, unless you are facing a medical induction or something dealing with you have to induce any earlier. I don't believe in inducing any earlier than 38 weeks and 6 days, because it has been shown that there is a difference in your lung development and all these other things with the babies up to 39 weeks. So I like to do at the night of 38 weeks and 6 days, so that I'm giving birth on the morning of 39 weeks. Okay, so I'm trying to hit the 39 weeks. That's the absolute earliest I've done. The latest that I did it was the night of 40 weeks and 4 days. I also do think that it's important to kind of go in between 38 weeks and 6 days and 40 weeks and 6 days. The reason is because after 40 weeks and 6 days, you do get heightened issues such as a baby passing meconium, whether you use the Midwife Brew or not or whatever. That can happen as babies get so old gestationally with the pregnancy. And then you also have other risks. So for me personally, I don't like to wait for that long. I'm a very small girl. The bigger the baby, the less likely I'm going to be able to push him or her out, and I put myself at risk for a C-section. My mother died in a C-section with me, so because of those things, I have my own reasoning for that. But my personal opinion is try to be as close to 39 weeks as possible for your earliest. But I do know people who have done it earlier, who had to do it earlier, who did it at 37 weeks. But you definitely want to make sure that you are full term. You know, the safety of your baby being able to function outside the womb is top priority. We want to make sure that it's safe. So keep all these things in mind as you make these decisions with your provider, okay? Can I take it if I have gestational diabetes? Yes! I had gestational diabetes. Don't worry. You can totally take it. In fact, sometimes when you have gestational diabetes, they want you to induce earlier. And this is the method that I use so that I didn't have to go through the medical induction and I could just induce myself and have an easier time with labor and delivery. At what time of day did you take it? At nighttime. I'm a strong believer in nighttime being the best time to start your labor, because you get to sleep through a lot of it and you get to rest and really, I don't know, there's something about the nighttime and the moon and woman, you know, our cycle and the moon cycle kind of similar. I'm pro take it at night, but I know people who have taken it in the afternoon and they have babies at night, so it's okay. Take it anytime that you feel comfortable. Also, nighttime is a natural fasting time, and like I said before, I think it's better to have an empty stomach in case you vomit or anything like that during labor. So yeah, but take it anytime that you desire. What exact castor oil do you use? I use the Swan brand. I believe it's called Swan brand of castor oil. I went to my local like Walgreens or CVS and I got this, and the last time I just ordered it off of Amazon ahead of time. Had you lost your mucus plug before you went to labor? Nope. I did not. So that's not necessary. Also, your mucus plug, even if you lose it ahead of time, it regenerates within like 24 to 48 hours. So if you don't go into labor within that short period of time, you have a whole new mucus plug to lose. So I wouldn't even worry about that. Will it work without castor oil? Nope. Sorry. Where did you get your lemon verbena tea from? Okay, so I got it from a tea shop for the first time that I did it, but the other 2 times I just ordered it off of Amazon. I ordered it. I'm gonna leave links in the description box below for all the things, and also any of the other videos that I have. I'm going to leave linked in the description box, but also I'm going to leave a playlist at the end of this video so that you can get more value and just get more prepared for labor. But yeah, I ordered it ahead of time because for me it was difficult to find in store, so that was the best way to make sure I had it. What if I'm allergic to nuts? Okay, so that could be problematic because one of the ingredients is almond butter. So what you could do is you could substitute that. If you are allergic, you could use sunflower seed butter, right? That's a substitute for nuts. Or maybe even go ahead and use some ice cream. Just something that's gonna coat your stomach nicely. That's what that part of the ingredient is for. So yeah, you can substitute that so you don't have an allergic reaction, because boy oh boy, you do not need that before you go into labor. All right, thank you for watching this video. I hope that it has brought some clarity to you for the Midwives Brew. I will be making more video content on the Midwives Brew. If you have any extra questions, please leave that question in the comment section below. I will try to answer it to the best of my ability. If you are not subscribed, come on girl, join this community. We're very supportive here of that super mom life, trying to be super moms, not perfect moms, but super moms regardless. And we're just gonna make it happen and be on this journey together. Join us. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe. Make sure everybody, whether you're subscribed or not, that notification bell is turned on to all notifications, because I've noticed that many of my subscribers are missing some of my content because they don't have that notification bell on all. So that's important. If you subscribe to, anyone that you want to see more content from, that you make sure you have that notification bell on all. And I will see you ladies in the next video, or you can watch this playlist. Bye-bye.